Beloved Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. Listen, sorry, I was away for 3 days. I had to go to Marbella to see my 83-year-old mother. These things happen. Listen, great to be back. Let's catch up. We have a lot of interesting things to discuss. Let's talk about, we got to talk about Modric and Kroos, their contract renewals. We need to talk about Lunin as well. I'll talk to you a little bit about Mbappe, his sort of arrival as well. I'll briefly comment on what's happening at Barca because this club never ceases to amaze me. I mean, it gets crazier by the day. And then, given that things are slow, I was thinking about kind of fun videos to make in the next couple of weeks. So I'll give you a little prelude of some of the things that I want to address in videos coming up. But anyway, great to be back. Thank you for being with me again. Let's get started. All right, Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's get started. So we had, good news in terms of Luka and Toni. So the word is basically that the club is going to offer renewals to both Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, which is, great news. I think Kroos was more predictable. I think the Luka Modric thing was a bit more in the air. I think it's positive. We know the contribution that Luka makes in critical moments, and I think if he's used appropriately, he's such a powerful weapon, and of course he's so beloved by the club. So it's a really good situation. So where we are now is that the club has sort of said that they will offer renewals. Now it's kind of in the hands of Toni and Luka to accept them. Now I think they both will. Luka's contract will be a little bit lower. They will adjust the salary. Obviously, it has to reflect the number of minutes that he's expected to play, etc. But Luka, if he wanted to leave for money, he would have done it last summer. The Saudis were offering him a ton of money. The MLS offered him a ton of money. He wants to be a part of this. And there are a lot of reasons why you would want to stay. Okay, I mean, if you think about next year. First of all, look where we are. We're about to play a Champions League final. You have Mbappe coming next year, which means we're going to be very competitive. There's the prospect of maybe another Champions League final. There's a new format in the Champions League next year, which it kind of involves more games, etc. But, there's a new kind of vibe around Madrid. There's the new Bernabeu, which is just amazing. Every time you go, people come from all over the world, and the feedback is it's absolutely extraordinary. And then don't forget that we have the new, Club World Cup, which is a new format that will be played in the U.S. at the end of next season. And I think that, all of this is a bit appetizing, I think, to both Toni and Luka. So, look, I think the club will make, fair offers to them, and I expect both of them to stay. And I think it's great news. Now, another thing I want to mention in terms of minutes, like the big issue was, well, how are you going to manage minutes if you keep Luka and Toni? We have so many midfielders. But if you kind of think about it, Alaba, I don't know if you guys know this, but Alaba's injury is not really going very well. He required surgery again. So there is a very big chance that Tchouaméni is going to have to play in a center back position more often than not. That's one issue. You've got Ceballos as well, who may or may not stay, which would open up a few more minutes in the midfield. And then, of course, Nacho. We're not sure if Nacho's going to stay either, which again would compel Tchouaméni to play center back. So all of this opens up more minutes in the middle. And, one of my kind of concerns about renewing Luka was, making sure that we have enough minutes to give to Brahim and players like Arda. So, look, I think if you think about what's happened the last few days, I think renewing Luka, if we use him wisely, could be a great asset. And we've seen what he can do. And I think we can free up enough minutes that it won't get in the way of the Brahims and the Ardas of the world. So I think it's great news all around, and I'm really, really happy to see it. And don't forget that emotionally, Luca to us is a legend of the club. He's associated with one of the greatest periods in our club's history, and we absolutely adore this guy. So I think it's really good news all around, and I'm kind of happy that they'll both be here next season. Another thing to mention, Lunin apparently has renewed until 2029, and again, you would think that a goalkeeper that did as well as he did this year would maybe be offended or want to leave, knowing that Courtois is coming back. But, again, this is the power, the gravitas of this club, that I think Lunin also wants to be a part of this project. He wants to be a part of this kind of legendary situation. And knowing that Courtois is coming back, but the fact that Lunin could still say, I want to be a part of this, I think is a wonderful message. So I'm very happy to hear this. I think it gives us a lot of confidence to know that, we can have Lunin as a backup to Courtois, who has proven to be such a solid goalkeeper. So I think that's, really incredible news as well. Now, in terms of, it's another thing, another reason why I think it's good news to keep Luca and Tony is that next year is going to be quite a heavy year in terms of football hours. So the new Champions League format is going to add, I think, 2 more games at the group stage, but in total, possibly up to 7 more games, depending on how far you get. And then you have, of course, the tournament, the new Club World Cup at the end of the season. So you're going to need to have a very, very deep, the 25 players that you have, you can't really afford to have any dead wood. So, rather than have sort of, maybe a youngster that you rely on less from Castilla or something like that, I think making sure that you have 25 players that are all extremely competitive and experienced, I think makes a difference. So I think this is all really, really good news. Okay, let's talk briefly about Kylian. So there was an interview with the president of the Spanish Football Federation, Tebas, and, he spilled the beans. We all know Kylian's coming, but he sort of literally said in an interview, next year La Liga is going to be amazing. He has to promote La Liga, but he basically said, you're going to have Mbappe and Vini, etc. But he literally said it. So clearly Mbappe is coming. Now, in terms of his announcement, I'll tell you what I think. I don't think that the club is going to say anything officially until after Wembley, okay? Because knowing what kind of the way that Florentino thinks and the kind of culture of the club, they are not going to distract or disrespect the players enough to make that sort of an announcement at this time. Okay, if we made a formal announcement now, it would be not only a distraction, but I think it would be a little bit awkward and almost insulting to the players that have had such an incredible season, that have gotten us to the final of a Champions League. So I don't expect anything to be, officially said until after Wembley. If we lose, it'll probably be the day after the final. If we win, they'll probably wait 3 or 4 days just to let the players be honored for what they accomplished. So Kylian's formal, in my view, I could be wrong, but in my view, that's going to have to wait. Okay, one other thing I wanted to get you guys up to speed on, and you may know what's been happening at Barca. Okay, I don't understand how this club can become more dysfunctional than it is, okay? There was an interview with Xavi a couple of days ago, and he stated the obvious. He basically said, look, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to compete as best as we can. But the financial situation of the club is terrible. And, it's going to be hard to compete in Spain, very difficult in Europe, because traditionally at Barca, a new manager could come in and say, I want this guy, this guy, this guy. That happened for the last 25 years, but we can't do it anymore. So he stated the obvious. But of course, in the world of Narnia, which is the sort of kind of cosmetic bubble that the Barca press and supporters kind of, live in, this was sacrilege, okay? This was blasphemy. So, of course, Laporta was reported to have had a hissy fit, and he's very upset with Xavi, and they're going to try to apparently push him out. So This is what Barça does when they're in financial trouble. And they've done it with De Jong and they've done it with Dembélé. So if you have a contract, but we want you out, here's what we do. We try to trash you into leaving. So there are reports that in order to get Xavi and his team to leave, it would cost Barça 20 million euros. Now, Barça does not have 20 million euros to waste. So what they do is that they try to contaminate publicity against people so that they leave voluntarily. So they did this with De Jong. They did this with Dembélé. And what they do is they say things. So in the case of De Jong, for example, they would make public statements like, okay, Frankie, you have a contract with us. We have two choices. You either renew your contract at a lower salary or you bring us a big offer from another club. Now, that's not true because there is a third choice, which is Frankie stays and you pay him what you promised you would in the contract that you offered him. But this is the kind of stuff that they do. So the latest circus at Barça is that Laporta is trying to muscle Xavi to leave through a kind of public relations war because they can't afford to fire him. Anyway, crazy, I don't know. That club just never ceases to amaze me. Okay, so now another thing I want to do is I just kind of want to give you a glimpse of some of the videos I want to do in the next couple of weeks, which I think will be fun. Now, one of them will be called A Day in the Life of Narnia. So I kind of want to do a deep dive into just kind of the media and the narrative that Barca supporters kind of inhabit, which is just so far away from reality. I think it's fascinating, but I want to do a deep dive into that because it is a parallel universe. Another one I want to do is about Guardiola. Now, Guardiola, okay, I did a video about Messi, and, I said he's not the GOAT. Now, I can't tell you who the GOAT is in football. I don't think anybody can because it's not the kind of sport where it's that easy to say. But the term GOAT was only associated with him out of just propaganda around his circle. So I just kind of made a video saying he ain't the GOAT. Well, I'm going to do another one saying Guardiola ain't all of that. And we're going to look at numbers and base it on statistics. So I'm sure that'll upset a few people. And then a third one that I'll do, which will likely upset people as well, listen, I'm a massive fan of the English Premier League. I think it's fantastic. I watch 3 or 4 Premier League matches every week. I think it's just brilliant, entertaining. I love it. But there is, a medical condition which, I would define as EFDS, right? English Football Delusion Syndrome. And it permeates throughout the media. Yes, the EPL is very watched. Yes, it's very interesting and competitive. Yes, unpredictable and entertaining. But English clubs are not the best, okay? And, because we beat them every day. So I just kind of want to do a deep dive, which I will dedicate to the media sources that feed this nonsense. So anyway, that's just a small glimpse into some of the stuff I want to do in the next couple of weeks. But anyway, sorry for abandoning you these last couple of days. But I will see you guys. I'll do a post-match analysis day after tomorrow. And anyway, after the Villarreal match. But thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. A la Madrid.